Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Why Music Podcast, the podcast where we explore different musicians and their music throughout history. Today, I have a very, very special guest, the award-winning composer, Kathryn Bostic. Kathryn Bostic has done many amazing things in her career so far. She's an Emmy-nominated composer. She's also a songwriter, pianist, and a vocalist. She scored for the multiple award-winning film called Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am, which came out in 2019. And she also won an award for the outstanding original score that year as well. She also wrote music for the film Holiday Rush, which you can find right now on Netflix. So Kathryn, you've done some amazing things in your career so far, but could you take us back to when you first started to compose? And what was your first composing job?
I started writing music at a very young age. My mother was a classical pianist and composer, and I remember making up my own songs actually quite early. I would go outside and observe things, and then I would come back home and create my own version of that on the piano. So maybe that would be the first time. I was maybe 8 years old when I started writing music. But in terms of actual composition, I think that was when I was in college. I mean, I was in bands earlier. I was in high school. I would be in bands and we would make up songs and play them and have rehearsals and things like that. But I had been asked to write something for the ASPCA, the Animal Shelter Organization, about man's relationship with animals. They had this footage of an elephant with his caretaker and how they had this bond. And they asked me to score something for their public service announcement. So that was my first time, and I really enjoyed it. And that's when I began to think about writing for other platforms of self-expression, such as film and anything media.
So I think everyone's going to be really curious to know, what does a typical day in your life look like?
Well, every day is different, and it depends on the project that I'm working on. For instance, if it's a movie or a TV show, then I look at the footage. This is, of course, after I've had discussions with the director and producers about what they need. You know, when you write music to picture, you have to be aware of the emotional context the music is going to serve. So I'll sit and I'll come up with ideas and sketch them out and then share them with the creative team and get feedback until it's at a place that we all feel is serving the picture. So that's one aspect. And then if I'm writing for something other than television and film, for instance, if I'm writing a song or a concert piece, for me, it's all storytelling. And I think that's what composing really is. And I think that is the most beautiful thing about writing music, is that it's a way of sonically telling a story.
That's a really interesting idea about telling stories. So for anyone listening out there, how would you go about recommending someone to get started to tell their own story?
I would say to trust your imagination and trust your emotions, how you're feeling about that idea, and then let the music begin to have a conversation with you. That's also what music is. It's conversation. So let's say you're writing music about your best friend. So what are some of those qualities? Why is that person your best friend? That would be one way to approach it. So you want to just gather information and use your imagination. It could be somebody or an event that is fictional. You know, it's all storytelling. It's all conversation. And so I just say to trust your imagination. And if you have a curiosity about an instrument to have that conversation with, then begin to know that instrument and let that be in partnership with you while you are creating this music.
So like we said before, you've done a lot of amazing things in your career so far. So could you share with us a highlight of your career?
I don't really think of anything specific. There's been so many. I mean, it's really, for me, it's been about the journey of discovering more and more how much music is important to me and how much I want to have that quality and experience in my life. And so all of the experiences and opportunities that I've had reflect a deepening of that awareness, of that desire. I've been on the road as a singer. I've toured all over the world as a background singer, and then in some instances, even with my own group, doing jazz festivals. And in that ability to travel, I got to see many different kinds of people and cultures, and that was very enriching. Music, it's so universal that you're always able to have extraordinary experiences and opportunities. And also you're able to be self-reflective because music is emotion and it triggers things. So that's also very powerful. And that's a highlight, being able to connect like that.
I agree. I think connecting with people is really, really important and really special. And that's something I think that Jocelyn talked about when she talked about the people that she's been inspired by and the music that she's connected with. So could you please share with us some of the composers who you're inspired by?
There's so many composers that I'm inspired by. My mother was actually, as I think I told you, she was an incredible composer and musician, and she informed me about several African-American composers. In fact, she received grants and fellowships to study them. And I remember her playing William Grant Steele in our household. I remember her playing his piano pieces. What was it? Muted Laughter. I remember her playing Margaret Bond's Troubled Waters and George Walker's piano piece. And I was just blown away by the depth of their talent and their self-expression. I also really am inspired by some of the jazz composers. McCoy Tyner. I love the massive, mountainous energy of his piano playing and his work. Just incredible. I had the good fortune of meeting him many years ago when I lived in New York, and he just was so gracious and just had such depth, deep thinker, and you can hear it in his music. I love the pastoral quality of Ray Vaughan Williams. I love Stravinsky. I love Ravel and Debussy, Villalobos and Astera. I mean, Jobim. I think in all the people that I've mentioned, you can hear and feel their own unique presence. You can feel their authenticity. And you can feel something that they've just completely invested themselves in.
Yeah, you've mentioned some really amazing composers there. And I hope people listening go away and find out more about their music and about their lives as well. So we've got a lot of young people listening. So are there any words of advice that you might want to give a young person who's thinking about becoming a composer?
Well, I think the most important thing is to enjoy the process of being creative. You know, just have fun with it. It's like a conversation with somebody that you're comfortable with. So be comfortable with the process, be comfortable with yourself, and enjoy creating with the idea in mind that you are storytelling and it's through music. And so you can translate your feelings and your thoughts and your words musically in a way in which you would have conversation with somebody that either you know very well or someone who you've just met. But it's conversation, and there's no right or wrong. There's just the actual doing of it. So I would say just have fun and just always be curious about what it is that's inspiring you, and you'll have more inspiration.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with all of us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening to this podcast. I really hope you've been inspired by everything that Kathryn's had to say today. If you'd like to find out more about Kathryn and her work, go to her website, which is kathrynbostic.com, On there, you'll find a list of many TV shows and theatre productions and films that she's worked on. And you'll also find a tab which is linked to a SoundCloud account where you can listen to some great music that she's created. So until next episode, be good to yourselves, listen to some great music, find out more about Kathryn and her work, and peace.